evidence that was seized during a raid in June. Some items, including a large sum of cash, were recovered during the arrest. 6 of the arrested officers are from the Ekurhuleni Metro Police Department, while the other 4 are SAPS members from Tsakane Police Station. Cameron elaborates.
We welcome the arrest of the 10 South African Police Service members. We have seen an increasing trend, and it must be acknowledged and encouraged that more members on all different levels are facing arrest. We just need to now make sure that this turns into successful conviction. We really hope that the prosecution process will be swift and effective and will receive the necessary detailed attention in order for us to make sure that the rotten apples in the South African Police Service are permanently removed.
The 10 officers are expected to continue with their bail applications at the Germiston Magistrates Court this morning. The KwaZulu-Natal Community Policing Forum has applauded the handing over of 4 mobile police stations in the province. The Premier Tamin Ntuli handed these mobile police stations to the General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi to be used and improve safety in crime hotspots areas. KZN CPF Secretary Siyanda Biela says the mobile stations will be of great assistance in communities where people reside far from police stations. He has called on communities to protect these resources by reporting corruption within the police force.
An outcry in our communities where the feeling is that the historic mapping or staging of police station has been far away from the population and serving those minority class in our communities. With these resources being distributed in our communities, they are meant to serve us. Wherever we feel that these resources are misused, the doors are open for everyone to be questioned or taken into disciplinary processes for them to keep these resources in place. So our call is that the community must play their role in assisting the South African Police Service and ensuring that they are also the watchdogs and the guards of these resources going forward.
The United Nations says reports of possible expansion of Israel's military operations in Gaza is deeply alarming if true. The Assistant Secretary General Miroslav Jenka told a meeting of the UN Security Council such a move would risk catastrophic consequences. The meeting was called at Israel's request after videos emerged showing 2 of the hostages severely malnourished. Dorothy Shea is the acting US representative to the United Nations.
The footage of these 2 young men, tormented, starved, emaciated, is not only a reminder of the evil that Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad represent. It also makes more clear than ever that the Security Council and the international community must stop pressuring Israel and instead impose maximum pressure on Hamas to immediately release all 50 hostages.
And finally, the Western Cape Mobility Department says it's important to celebrate the women who are the backbone of the freight industry. Western Cape Mobility Minister Isaac Seleku says this month they are celebrating both female freight truck drivers and the wives and partners of drivers. He says the freight industry is one of the essential components to the economy, but is often underappreciated.
To the women who power our freight system, thank you. Whether you are behind the wheel, managing things at home, or offering emotional support from afar, your contributions matter deeply. You carry the weight of sacrifice and service, and today we honor your role in keeping the Western Cape moving.
Recapping the top story, the South African Municipal Workers Union will today lead a march to Tshwane House to demand the reinstatement of workers who were dismissed in 2021. The dismissals followed a salary increase dispute. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide.
We plan for vacations, retirement, and even tonight's dinner. But do we plan for our health? It's how we protect our family's future. So who are you staying healthy for? And how can you protect their future? Choose Dis-Chem Life, the life cover that helps you live a healthier, more rewarding life with health checks and extra rewards. Visit dischemlife.co.za now. Dis-Chem Life. Choose a better partner for life. Dis-Chem Life is an authorized FSP 50594, underwritten by Guardrisk Life, a licensed life insurer, FSP 76. T's and C's apply.
What is Overtrail? Is it off the beaten path, over the edge of comfort, or the thrill of the road less taken? It's over every bridge, every obstacle, every trail, and over to that view that takes your breath away. Overtrail means going further, exploring deeper, surrounded by the comfort and sophistication of a luxury SUV. It's this spirit that inspired the Overtrail project. Experience Overtrail in the LX and GX range. Lexus. Experience amazing.
After a disappointing start, the Stallions are hunting for 3 points. Meanwhile, the Wild Beasts refuse to walk away from the field empty-handed. This is the Total Energies African Nations Championship 2024. Catch Burkina Faso versus Central African Republic this Wednesday, 6 August at 4 p.m. Live everywhere, for everyone, always on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
The Talking Point on SAFM. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
I always thought that I'll go into education, into teaching, but I also noticed around me the poverty of our people in the community. There were all these laws that were impacting on the lives of women that prevented them from moving around freely. And so that day we entered the Holy Grail, and it was like us being cheeky. We have dared to enter that domain. There was a plan that if the police did come, the 20,000 women would bend down and pray, and they would have had to arrest everybody. They came in that disciplined manner, and then they marched gracefully up those steps of the Union building. And I felt a lump in my throat when I looked at this large army of women, dignified women, courageous women. And in my younghood, I felt so humbled to be part of such bravery. I don't think words can express how I feel about that time and now. And I think women today, wherever they are working, I think the women of that era opened the way for them.
That's the voice of Sophia Williams-De Bruyn, one of the women who marched to the Union buildings in 1956 in protest against the past laws. And that's part of the reason why August 9 is declared Women's Day in South Africa. It's Women's Month, of course. With that, welcome to Wednesday's edition of The Talking Point. My name is Khomotso KG Mweketsi. I'm here for Kathy Moshatlana today. It's Wednesday, as I said, the 6th of August, where SFM leading the conversations that move us. Our studio numbers for you to join in whenever you want: 086 000 2032, 086 000 2032. The SMS line 41391, 41391 at 150 to you. On WhatsApp 061 410 4107, 061 410 4104107. On X, we are at SFM Radio, and when you X us, hashtag SFM Talking Points. Coming up on the program today, we open the lines for you between now and 10. After 10, in the Citizens Corner, we're going to try and understand the Minerals Resources Development Bill of 2025, or what we commonly now know as the Mining Bill. For our Citizens Corner this morning, we're getting to understand and breaking down the Mineral Resources Development Bill, known as the Mining Bill. It is currently open for public comment in an effort to transform the sector. As much as we are discussing the bill, we're also going to use the opportunity to speak to communities that are affected by mining disasters that occur in mining areas. One recent example that we can all remember and talk about is the Jagersfontein Dam disaster. This year, there, interestingly enough, marks 3 years in September next month since the tailings dam at the Jagersfontein diamond mine collapsed, claiming lives and damaging houses. So what is it that citizens living in these areas should know, and how can they get involved and hold mining companies accountable whenever a disaster of any kind happens to them and affects them? So we'll navigate that discussion with Hassan Logat, who's a social justice activist, and he's worked in the union space and recently as a mining activist within the Benchmark Foundation. Thabo Ishmael Chaledi is a Jagersfontein Lerumo Justice Forum. He was involved in the process of saving people's lives when that disaster was happening. Judith Tomo is an organizing secretary of the same Jagersfontein Lerumo Justice Forum. That's who we'll talk to between 10 and 11. After 11, we're going to have a conversation around the Localization Support Fund that's warning against the impact of e-commerce support on South African jobs. Putting it in another way, when was the last time you bought clothes from Temu or Shein? And when you bought clothes from Temu or Shein online, did you ask yourself what that means for companies or businesses that make similar or, same type of things in the country? The Localization Support Fund, with the support of the Retail Clothing, Textile, Footwear and Leather Master Plan, has revealed that more than 34,000 local jobs could be displaced due to e-commerce platforms. They say that if Temu and Shein continue to grow their market share in South Africa, then our local industry will be severely affected, resulting in major job losses. So we're going to talk to Ishrat Kathrada, who's the CEO of the Localization Support Fund. And then we'll round off the show talking with Lerato Tsebe, who's been giving us a series on the G20, looking at how South Africa uses the opportunity of hosting the G20. Lerato Tsebe is an independent African researcher, and we'll talk to her about, certain things that relates to us hosting the G20 as we round off the show. So I was listening this morning as I was driving here to conversations that you were having with Thulasizwe Simelane. And I was fascinated to hear that a lot of you are talking about that IDT video that is on the DM, the Daily Maverick publication. The article, the video, everything is quite horrifying and quite shocking. But I wanted, on my mind today, is another article in the Daily Maverick that was written by Rebecca. Is it Rebecca Davis or Davids? I get her surname wrong. Apologies to Rebecca. I think it's Davis. Kanya just corrected me. And it highlighted something that I don't think we're having enough conversations about. It highlighted issues of internal governance or internal democratic principles amongst some of the biggest parties in South Africa today, some that don't at all anymore hold elective conferences. We speak a lot about the elective conference of the ANC a lot. Whenever they're going to have to an elective conference, we spoke about the last two that were in Nasrec that elected their president, Cyril Ramaphosa, who ended up being the president of the country. But there's a new trend, Rebecca Davis argues, that is emerging in politics that we're not talking about, and it is parties that exist without even holding elective conferences. And I know you're probably thinking that she's alluding only to the MK party. No, there's more than just the MK party. She talks, of course, about the MK party waiting to appoint right, in inverted commas, the next SG after Floyd was ushered out, at the lack of a better choice of words, because I don't want to say fired, after he was ushered out of his SG position, that they wait for the leader, right? The non-elected leader of the MK party, the founder, if you may, who is the former President Jacob Zuma, to apply his mind as to who will be next in line to fill the position of SG. But Rebecca goes on to argue that there's other parties, right, in South Africa that have similar principles. Talks of Action SA with Herman Mashaba. We don't hear of them holding an elective conference either, right? And then talks about the Patriotic Alliance. The Patriotic Alliance, I think in their founding documents, talk of the founders. The founders are Kenny Gunene, they are Gayton McKenzie. There's a third person whose name eludes me right now. And their framing of their constitution relates to not having elective conferences as much as the founders will determine, who plays leadership roles. And then she also talks about the EFF, right? In that, in as much as they do have what you can call an elective conference, the position of president or leader, commander, I don't know, CIC, whatever you want to call it, is almost predetermined, even though it's not really predetermined, but it's almost kind of predetermined. And she's asking, us as readers to think about because we expect them to uphold democratic principles when they get into governance, right? All of these people. But then if they don't adhere to similar democratic principles within their parties, what does it mean for South Africa in the long term? Is that the direction that we're going, where I will open a party, the Moeketsi, whatever, I don't know, I can't come up with the name now. And then I decide, Zelma Klibi is my SG, Zelma Klibi is my technical person today. Kanya Bonani will be deputy. But what does it mean for you as the people who vote? Are you okay with it? Are you coming to accept the fact that that's how it works? Or is the era of populism only allowing for politics to go in that direction? So that's what's on my mind today. I'd love to hear what's on your mind. 086 000 2032. We'll be back with your calls.
Are you looking for the best savings on spectacles? At Specsavers, enjoy 1,500 Rand off when you get tested at South Africa's trusted and most established optical group. Get 1,500 Rand off all frames in store, or use your 1,500 Rand off on our leading lens enhancements, such as drive light lenses that reduce artificial glare whilst driving. Book online or call your nearest store today. Affordable eye care, Specsavers. T's and C's apply.
Keeping your family healthy this winter can feel like a daunting task. Try the Lung Shield range. It includes capsules to support healthy lungs and immunity, a syrup for kids that supports the immune system and promotes lung health, and an effervescent with 13 essential ingredients to optimize immune function. Put your family's health first this winter with the Lung Shield range. Available without a prescription at leading pharmacies. Lung Shield, prescribed by doctors, recommended by pharmacists.
After a disappointing start, the Stallions are hunting for 3 points. Meanwhile, the Wild Beasts refuse to walk away from the field empty-handed. This is the Total Energies African Nations Championship 2024. Catch Burkina Faso versus Central African Republic this Wednesday, 6 August at 4 p.m. Live everywhere, for everyone, always on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Call us on 086 000 2032.
Open line time 086 000 2032, 086 000 2032. Loward in Alberton. You want to talk Banyaza Lisufi and the HOD reshuffle. Hi, Loward.
Good morning, Ms. KG.
Hi.
Okay.
I'm good. How are you?
Good, ma'am. You know, I nearly fell into that misleading narrative that depicted Comrade Panyaza Lesufi as a popular leader.
You nearly fell into, sorry, I didn't hear?
I nearly fell into a misleading narrative.
Oh, okay. I heard, yeah.
Yes. Because what I can say, Ms. KG, is that Mr. Lesufi is prevailed against all odds during his implementation of a Nazi-East plan by absorbing considerable jobless individuals into the employment opportunities. Take, for instance, your traffic wardens and the so-called crime wardens who have been working since the initiative has been implemented. And some KG have even attempted to scandalize the premier by linking him to corruption related to the Tembisa hospital corruption debacle, if you can remember. But the premier stood firm and resilient against all odds. Fast forward, KG, Premier Lesufi, he took a decisive step to reshuffle some heads of the departments for the sake of efficiency within those respective departments. Yesterday, if not a day before, he suspended the HOD of Community Safety Department and the CFO based on the findings of the forensic investigations. So what I can urge Premier Lesufi to do, there is a department in Gauteng which is so problematic for the longest of time, and it's health. That department, it has to be thoroughly investigated as well, so as to ensure that if there is malfeasance, maladministration, or whatever else going on in that department, the heads must run even within that department.
I'm fascinated that you're not saying anything about the Life Esidimeni reparations that have to be paid regards health.
Yes. No, you are correct, Ms. KG. He has to do something about that as well, because there are findings based on the Life Esidimeni investigations. So hopefully the Premier will take a decisive action to deal with the matter and compensate the victims of those who lost their lives. Due to the negligence of the health department.
Yeah, but I mean, we still have to get to the bottom of what killed the lady who was investigating the Tembisa hospital malfeasance that happened. She lost her life. She can't have lost her life for nothing.
No, that's very true, KG. You know, I appreciate the opportunity given. And let me listen to my fellow listeners here.
Sure, Lord.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks. Have a great day. Lisiba Tobela in Polokwane, you want to talk the police commissioner and the parliamentary ad hoc committee. Oh, you were watching yesterday. Hi, Lisiba.
Yes, SKG. Thanks for taking my call, and your producer, and Lisiba in Polokwane. That's here in Sekhukhune, where I'm coming from, SKG. You see, let me first appreciate the fact that the committee has now started to hit the ground running, but I'm a little bit concerned about Julius Malema, who refused the nomination. I think this ad hoc committee shouldn't be about the party political affiliates. It should be about the South Africans, members of National Assembly from different committees came together in an ad hoc committee in order to follow the allegation of General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, because we are so tired, OSKG. The country has been on autopilot for some time. The criminals took advantage of that. We are at the mercy of criminals, and we need to save the situation. We will be bringing information that we have, we'll give them the support, and also the Commission of Inquiry, let them open their doors for us. We will work together to make sure that we put an end to these things, because the people cannot be held at those stage at the ransom by the criminals. It's really disturbing.
Yeah, interesting. So we'll watch and see, because it's still early days. So we'll watch and see what happens in that ad hoc committee.
No, they've got only 3 months to wrap up everything. Then so and say they must work on the committee around the clock.
Yeah.
So that we must be able to get to the bottom of this. But then even yourself, the media, I'm happy because we saw some of the journalists resisting the temptation of bribes. This is what we can. The kind of credible individuals like Maybeck, what he did, this is what we've been looking for. And we believe, even yourself, KG, you must stop aligning yourself along the politics just to make sure that we put South Africans first and make sure that everything returns to normal.
Thanks, Lisiba. Even yourself, KG, you must stop aligning yourself with politics. Les, in the Western Cape, internal governance and new parties. Hi, Les.
Okay, KG.
Hi, Les.
You know, the political system of South Africa is very, very bad by the leaders of the political parties who are operating in a cult system. The reason why I'm saying something like this is each and every year, parties are created. And when parties are created, those leaders, they are dividing the electorate, the voters from the ground. The voters are divided. Okay, for example, if I can tell, now the EFF supporters are going to be divided. Some of the supporters are going to support Shivambu. Some of them are going to support Julius Malema. Same applies to, if you can check, Holomisa. The UDM is 28 years old. And then the UDM still is holding only 2 seats or 3 seats in parliament since for 28 years old. So if we can even get on Mackenzie there, those leaders, they are leader for life. They can't do nothing there. And that is not part of democracy, because those people, they are using the voters as a commodities here in South Africa. And these things, that is, we are abusing the democracy, because Gideon Mackenzie will be the leader. Julius Malema will always be the leader.
And
forever. Forever. And we as a voters from the ground, we need voters.
But what if the voters on the ground want it that way? And I'm just asking. I'm throwing
the only problem is the voters are manipulated. Manipulated by the leaders, because the leader, when you go there, are going to represent you by this and this and this and this and this and this. Reason? Can you share Liam Jacobs of the from the DA when you go to the PA? Liam Jacobs just a mere convincing statement that no, you're a colored. The DA doesn't have any minister for as a colored, but the colored people are supporting the DA. He became victimized by that statement. Because which means people from the only problem here in South Africa, we're supposed to have the people who are intellectual society in South Africa. The only problem with people from the ground, there is a class here in South Africa. The people who have got money, the people who doesn't have nothing. And those people who doesn't have nothing, they are manipulated, because if you can check during the time of Esma Khashuri, he used to use food parcel to the people. And those people, they are distributed food parcel for only 1 day.
Yeah, but I have to go to the news headlines. But it's interesting that you bring the Ace Magashule thing in on the table. You say they used to get food parcels because ultimately, though, they didn't even give him anything really that's worth measuring when elections came, even though he gave them those food parcels. But thanks, Les. I'm going to go to the news headlines. It's 9:31 and Musa is standing by.
Good morning. Thanks, KG. In the headlines, the National Union of Mine Workers has criticised the Sheba Gold Mine in Barberton in Mpumalanga for allegedly failing to protect its members underground. This follows the arrest of more than 500 illegal miners at the mine since Friday last week. The South African Municipal Workers Union will today lead a march to Tshwane House to demand the reinstatement of workers who were dismissed in 2021. The dismissals followed a salary increase dispute, and the 50% US tariffs on a raft of Brazilian goods have come into force, the steepest so far imposed on any economy by the Trump administration. I'll have details on these and other stories at 10.
Chasing the Sun is a 5-part South African sport documentary series. An inspiring story of the 4-time World Rugby champions, the Springboks. The journey of winning the Rugby World Cup, a behind-the-scenes look of how the green and gold team overcame adversity, divisions and doubt to become world champs. Be there when history shines. Tune into SABC2 on Sundays at 7:30 p.m. from 13 July to 10 August. Also available anytime, anywhere on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
Dumelang Mzansi, welcome to the Health Club. This is where we unpack the issues that affect our health, your well-being and your everyday life.
Arthritis. High blood.
Losing your health is an event that is not predictable.
Organized crime syndicates have infiltrated our healthcare system and has cost the country billions of rands.
Claims that are fraudulent could be anything between 5 to 15%.
I'm your host, Clement Manyatela. This is the Health Club.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide. Leading the conversation.
We've also resolved every Tuesday and want to extend the invite to you. Every Tuesday, myself with all the MECs, together with the executive mayors, will physically inspect infrastructure and service delivery challenges in our province as part of the preparations for the G20.
Just believe, 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 just believe.
You are listening to KG Mwekezi on SAFM.
Hi, good morning, KG, and your producer and all the listeners of SAFM. KG, I like to talk regard the crime that is happening here in Western Cape. I think the Mr. Mkhwanazi, they must come and fight this crime here because there are a lot of crime, a lot of guns here in Western Cape. And the government of Western Cape, they don't do nothing about this. People, they scared even when they go to work in the morning, KG, because out of the sudden, the young guys, they just gunpoint you and take everything from you. Hijacking is a lot, especially in Khayelitsha. And the police, they don't do nothing with this. I think the police is connect with those criminals. Mr. Mkhwanazi, can you please, if you listen, can you come here in Western Cape? Sia from Cape Town. Thank you, KG.
Morning, KG. Opposition parties like to have a blaming game because Justice Madlanga and Mr. Lekganyane are not going to do a solo work. It is going to be teamwork regarding people not having election conferences is their choice. You can't force them. And when we're running out of ideas, let us not use color. Let us put facts on the table and not be emotional. Thank you, KG.
Good morning, SKG. It's Ali here from Limpopo. I want to come in on the issue of the mining sector. Listen, man, we have a lot of illegal mining, even in our province of Limpopo, where I'm asking myself, where are the intelligences on the ground doing that? Because of like, one can open a mine and mine for maybe 6 months or 7 months, and after all, the mine is closed, and then you can see that like this thing was an illegal mining by looking at how the mine was conducted, but no one get arrested. So we are just living in a banana republic kind of. Thank you very much.
Hi, good morning, KG. Thinking of the old democratic ways of parties, let's give an example of the ANC, which used to say the branches are the core. The will of the branches will be done by the NEC. And then you go to the branches, there is gatekeeping of members, say it's no longer it's no longer democratic. Then you go to the NEC, that could decide to form a GNU without even consulting the branches. Not only decide to form a GNU, but also deciding who they will work with without even going to the branches and asking them, due to the mandate that you gave us, which parties do you think we should invite to the GNU? So the parties should do as they wish, as it works for them. As voters, we'll just vote as we wish to. There is nothing democratic in all these parties, including ANC and DA.
You are listening to KG Mwekezi on SFM.
Thanks for your voice notes. It's fascinating to me that you say they must do as they please. They must do as they please because they will, and then you will still vote for them, even though they will do as they please. That fascinates me. Rijelang in Midrand, you also want to talk the internal governance of new political parties. Hi, Rijelang.
Very good morning to you, KG, and all listeners. Maybe let me start by apologizing in advance. My name is Regile Ing.
Oh, Lebo.
Regile Ing.
Okay,
what did we eat?
Okay,
Thank
let
you
me
much.
say it again. Regile Ing. Who did you speak to?
100%.
Did you speak to Kanya? Or did you speak
I
to
didn't-
Lebo?
No, it's supposed to be Kanya, it's not Lebo.
Oh, okay. Regile Ing. I'm sorry. I
Not a problem.
apologize. I apologize.
No, you're welcome. You're welcome. Don't worry.
Mm.
I just need to speak about the democratic governance, even in the
Political
different
parties.
tiers of political parties.
Yeah.
It is very much exciting to see and to hear majority of ourselves naming and blaming the CIC Julius Malema within 12 years. We have got the traditional leaders, the likes of the Lehiso, rest in peace, Mango Sutu Gashabu Telesi.
Yes, in the IFP, yes.
In the IFP. And we have got the Honorable Mr. Bantu Bonke Olunisa.
In the UDM.
In the UDM. And then I'm not going to mention this up and coming one. I'm talking about those who are more than 20 years.
Yeah,
existing.
no, I agree with you. It's
And,
not new. It's not a new phenomenon.
So, I want to congratulate people who see something in EFF by Julius Malema.
Mm-hmm.
Because for the past 10 or 12 years,
Mm-hmm.
for us criticizing and pointing fingers and everything like that, in our language we saying, e kgobola e tsamayang e emeng dintja di a e rotela sepedi a sorogane. So which means EFF and Julius Malema as their president of that party,
Mm-hmm.
there's something they are doing. That's why we are able now and today talking about them.
Yeah,
Should
but
that not
I
be
mean,
a
it's
duty?
not only the EFF that's doing it. The MK Party, a new kid on the block in many ways, but a big kid on the block now is doing something similar. Jacob Zuma is that to them. Action SA, what's his name, the former mayor of Joburg, Mr. Mashaba, Mr. Herman Mashaba. We can say the same about the PPA, Patriotic Alliance.
Ms. KG, let me differ with you there, but it's your own opinion, it's good, and even myself, it's my opinion. Remember what Julius Malema used to say to when you get the platform, is that the EFF, the difference of the EFF, is not sponsored by monopoly capital. That is the only difference. It's not the darling of any of the sponsored media. That's why we see them and we are made to see as if EFF is different to all of the you mentioned. Those all you mentioned, we've been told and that they've been sponsored. EFF, who is sponsoring the EFF besides their ideological and their means and ways of building that party up to wherever it is, from scratch and from zero with no budget and everything like that. And people, they are talking about the political parties which they are mushrooming and they are dividing the voters. The people who got money, they're making us to look like that.
Okay.
When they give people money to formulate parties and the people, they accept it, and that is democracy. It's their choice. And even us, the voters, it's up to us to choose whichever way we think it will be better for ourselves and our future. So I see nothing wrong about that. But anyway, we've got all the right to say whatever and our views and our opinion. But one thing for sure, I would like to say, pick up to EFF, whatever. I'm not a fan, I'm not a member of the EFF, but the good job they are doing and the difference they are making, I absolutely see for that. And then they are not... they mean business. Let me say it like that. They mean business. Even though
for someone who's not a fan, you sound a lot like a fan. But I thank you, Regile Ing. Thank you, Regile Ing. Mpho Nsikhukhune, you want to talk the internal governance of new political parties yourself. Hi, Mpho.
Yeah, on a lighter note, yes, it's pretty wrong. But anyway, it's fine.
Please explain what he meant in that saying.
No, let me not explain.
Okay.
But he was just saying that there's a richness in the language.
Okay,
anyway,
that's fine. Thank you. Go on.
No, KG, what I want to say is that the article you made reference to, unfortunately, I didn't have a benefit of maybe going through it.
Yeah.
But from what you said, it seems to me that the author may have confined the democracy to certain elements in her own writing, which means that democracy does not necessarily suggest that you should, on a continuous basis, have people who are elected. It's about how people want to govern themselves. I'm making a general statement.
Sure.
But the issue here is, what is the meaning of this new practice by these parties in the country for our democratic system? And I'll argue and say, these parties that does not go to conferences, they are denying their membership, to have a say and express an opinion about the kind of leadership that the party should have. And let me explain.
Sure.
You will know that when you study philosophy or generally in life, each one of us carries their own perspectives about life. Your outlook is different from me and your perceptions and so on.
Exactly.
Now, when we come together, we benefit by allowing our different perspectives to contend. In other words, my viewpoint and your viewpoint contend. And in the end, the contention of our viewpoint leads to a higher, more sophisticated position. In other words,
the power of two minds, two or more minds. Yes.
Yes, then we become strong. But when we say a leader somewhere in Ngandla has got all the wisdoms to decide on who must become our secretaries of organization, we are in essence denying the party the wisdom of the differences of perspectives. So that's where the problem arises. Of course, other parties may argue and say, no, we went to elections and people have confidence in these individuals in the context of the CIC all the time. But as political activists, we know that a CIC also has a responsibility sometimes to say, no, but this time I'm not around. I think that person is better than me. And one person had to leave EFF, arguing that he is the one-man show. But let me conclude by quoting something that has been said by Sello Chico Twala. I watched him on some podcast with one David Mashavela, and he said something very interesting by saying the ANC is the most democratic organization he knows. And this is his argument. He says he has seen the ANC recalling its presidents and moving on. Changing presidents from one to another and moving on. And for him, that was a sign of saying this organization has an internal democracy that nobody is born with a position. Lastly, you will know, KG, that the ANC, when it was formed, it was not led in the first its first committee was not led by the person who formed it. The idea of forming the ANC came about around Dr. Seme, but its first leader was John Langaliwa Leduwe. That says a lot.
Okay, Mpo, thanks. Vuiso in Parktown, I'll come back with you. JCK in Musina, I'll come back with you. Silo in Bombela, I'll come back with you, and I'll also come back with some of your voice notes. Keep your calls coming, 086 000 2032. The SMS line 41391, the WhatsApp line 061 410 4107.
Gender-based violence is destroying lives and tearing communities apart. It happens in homes, in schools, at workplaces, and too often in silence. But it doesn't have to continue. If you see it, speak out. If you are hurting, reach out, because doing nothing is not an option. Listen to all 19 SABC radio stations from Wednesday, the 23rd of July for hard talk, discussions, advice, dramas, educational shows, and interviews around GBV with experts, survivors, lawmakers, and a whole country affected by gender-based violence. All on your favorite SABC radio station. Call 0800 428 428 to report abuse or get help. GBV, it ends with you. This message is brought to you by the SABC. Call us on 086 000 2032.
9:49, you're listening to The Talking Point here on SFM. Vuiswa, Parktown North, Malema versus Traore. You are responding to Marumo yesterday. Hi, Vuiswa.
Yes,
Morning.
thanks. So how are you?
I'm good, how are you?
Yeah, it's good to have you. Yes, yesterday Marumo called Kathy, and actually it seems that day when I was talking to you about Traore versus Malema or vice versa, it didn't sit well with him when I spoke about the discipline of institutions. It seems like he was disappointed, but also I'd like to thank him for appreciating me, for my contributions that I make, for commending me, that he's got so much respect for me, but I've also got so much respect for him. But when it comes to these two, it's because I've followed the history. I've read the history of Traore, and I know the history of Malema. I've read, I've heard, I know him. When I relocated back home, he was still in the ANC. He's someone that I know. So I've met and I've spoken to. What I was trying to say is that the EFF for himself, I don't know who does this, when they go on social media, like Malema is compared to Thomas Sankara, compared sometimes to Gates Mashinini, compared to all these, leaders that have got so much credibility, according to me. And I don't know why he can't be himself. So if Marumo has a problem, you want to understand where I was coming from. I'm free let Lebo give him my numbers so that we can actually speak about it. I can talk to him. I'm free. I know where I'm coming from. With this, the discipline of institutions I was talking about is that it helps an individual, to be under a certain discipline, so that takes you more further. My dad, when I was 3 years old, used to say education goes a long way. I mean, I don't undermine that he corresponded to whatever, but what I want Marumo to know is that somehow, someone has to be a human being.
Okay.
And be able to show leadership qualities like Traore is doing.
Okay.
That's it.
Thanks.
And lastly, Homozo, it's about what is happening with this phenomena that we're fighting as brothers on the continent, Southern Africa's Aboriginal. I think the media has a vast job to do. The problem here is the leaders. You look at the Rwandan president and others, to give you just an example. Look when they get off their cars, the phalanx of bodyguards that they have. And what is the African Union doing? Because this phenomena, I will tell you, unfortunately, we don't have time. But I was going to allude to you things that I've seen growing up and having been in places like Kenya. Kenya, there was a time it was like South Africa when Somalians and Ethiopians, in 2 minutes, if you have got $5,000, you come out with a passport, Kenyan passport. Then you can go wherever you want to go. But Uhuru tried. Now, they don't talk about it at the AU to say, I had this similar problem. For instance, I was reading the other day, Namibia is a country that doesn't have what we encountering here. Crime is very, very, limited. It's not like something they can cry about. So why can't they sit down in that building, that China building, AU? This is why I was saying maybe it's better they build a very smart house and call it AU building instead of sitting in that building and doing nothing.
Yeah.
You know? Because
Viso, I have to move. Sello in Bombela, you want to talk the elective Congress and internal governance of new parties. Hi, Sello.
Thank you very much, KG, for taking my call, and good evening to your listeners.
Hey,
good morning, sorry. Good morning to your listeners. I think it's very important that before I comment on the matter in question, let me take this opportune moment and welcome August to the Women's Month. The rights of women, children, senior citizens, and all the vulnerable groups in our community. Until they are free, we will then say we enjoy freedom. I think we must continue to champion the rights of women. It's very important because we know what is happening, but it's a debate for another day.
Sure.
In terms of this matter of internal governance of political parties, let me start in this way. Unions, they are monitored in terms of, I think by the Department of Labor, in terms of the internal requirements that when they don't meet certain requirements, they are deregistered. I think the IEC must do the same because this thing of saying you have certified number of signatures and then you are a registered party, you are paying tax, and you have registered for elections, then you can run, you can contest, and that's all. It's not going to help us because one of the fundamental principles of cementing democracy is regular elections. Because if you don't have regular elections and then you take over government, what type of a government are we going to have? For example, if there are internal disputes in political parties, when the courts of this country take a decision on a matter, they are basing that decision on the constitutionality of the country, meaning that every constitution of every structure, even a social club or a soccer team, must not be unconstitutional in the country. For example, you find that you have a constitution that says in this social club, women will not lead, it's only men. It's unconstitutional in terms of the country. But I don't want to waste a lot of time on that one. But my constructive criticism is that the IEC must up to their ball and their eyes must also be on the ball, because they cannot just register people and leave them like that.
Got it.
And as I conclude, there's a comment that was made by another gentleman, I just forgot his name, when he was saying parties like the ANC, they don't even have internal democracy. I think it's very economic with the truth. He must go to the literatures of the ANC and check how democratic is the ANC, because the ANC will have each and every 5 years elective conference. And that particular conference is conference of branches. And then when the branches gather under one roof, that particular assembly becomes a structure on its own. No one can change the resolution of that particular structure. And you have what we call a democratic centralism in the ANC. The ANC has always had a mechanism of contacting their branches, which is our basic units or the building blocks of the organization in everything.
Yeah.
When they want to recall the president, when they want to form a GNU, it's either before or after, but informed by the democratic centralism. And remember, each and every structure of the ANC is represented in the upper structure.
Yeah,
You have
Silo, I think you've labored
zone.
the point. I think you've driven your point home and you've labored it. I'm going to move to Kandisa in Matlosana. Hi, Kandisa. You also want to talk branch members talking about the lack of consultation between branches and the NEC. Hi, Kandisa.
How are you, KG?
How are you, Kandisa?
Yeah. Look, man, KG. I don't know who is who here. The NEC of ANC, I don't know why they're supposed to back DA. As branches of ANC, we said to them, we write a lot of letters to them and say, as branches of ANC, we are not happy about this CMO of DA because these people, they want to bully us always. When the NEC raise issues, they come with other things that we don't, that are not in the agenda of GNU. You see, KG. Now, we want to know as branches of ANC, who is who here? Whether the DA is a mother body of ANC or what is happening. It cannot be correct, KG. We as branches of ANC, when we discuss issues, they are not implemented. And at the end of the day, they will charge us and say why we didn't raise this issue on the right platform. We raise these issues on the right platform, but they are not considered.
Yeah, I think it's fascinating. I think it's fascinating for us to leave it here because ultimately you're saying there is so-called democracy in terms of the structures of a big organization like the ANC, but when it comes to making decisions, like the big decision to get into power with an organization like the Democratic Alliance, those same branches that elected people were not considered in that big decision that got made. I have to leave it here. Thank you, everybody, for your calls. It's 10 now, and Musa is standing by.
Thanks, KG. In our top stories, NUM slams Sheba Gold Mine for failing to protect its miners, and steeper US tariffs take effect on many Brazilian goods. Good morning. The National Union of Mine Workers has criticized the Sheba Gold Mine in Barberton in Mpumalanga for allegedly failing to protect its members underground. This follows the arrest of more than 500 illegal miners at the mine since Friday last week. NUM spokesperson Libuwani Mamburu says they welcome the arrests as mine workers were being harassed by illegal miners.
The concern is that they are working in the same environment where our members are working underground. Like I said, they forcefully take food from our members. They were not even supposed to be there in the first place. The company was supposed to provide security for them, because in terms of Section 2 of the Mine Health and Safety Act, the company must make sure that its operations are safe for the workers to work.
The South African Municipal Workers Union, SAMU, will today lead a march to Tshwane House to demand the reinstatement of workers who were dismissed in 2021. The dismissals followed a salary increase dispute which emanated from the city of Tshwane's failure to adhere to an agreement it had reached with SAMU and other labour unions. The Tshwane Regional Chairperson Lihlohonolo Maphatswe says they hope the new administration will reinstate the workers as soon as possible.
We had entered into what we call political intervention after the new administration, which replaced the DA. We started this political intervention. We spoke to all the parties that are involved in the coalition. So we find each other in terms of the reinstatement. However, the discussions are still ongoing, but our frustrations are that we are not finding each other in terms of when should they reinstate these particular employees. So we are hoping that when we embark on this particular protected march, the administration will therefore consider reinstating these particular employees as soon as possible.
The United Nations says reports of possible expansion of Israel's military operations in Gaza is deeply alarming if true. The Assistant Secretary General Miroslav Jenka told a meeting of the UN Security Council such a move would risk catastrophic consequences. The meeting was called at Israel's request after videos emerged showing two of the hostages severely malnourished. Dorothy Shea is the acting U.S. representative to the United Nations.
The footage of these two young men, tormented, starved, emaciated, is not only a reminder of the evil that Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad represent. It also makes more clear than ever that the Security Council and the international community must stop pressuring Israel and instead impose maximum pressure on Hamas to immediately release all 50 hostages.
The 50% U.S. tariffs on a raft of Brazilian goods have come into force, the steepest so far imposed on any economy by the Trump administration. Key products, including coffee, will be affected. The BBC's Ione Wells has the details.
Brazil is the world's largest coffee exporter and provides about a third of the US's supplies. The decision will hit both Brazilian businesses and American coffee drinkers financially. What's unique is these tariffs are almost entirely political. President Trump has attributed them to the trial of the right-wing former president of Brazil, Jair Bolsonaro, who's facing trial for attempting a coup after losing the last election, something he denies. Mr. Trump has called it a witch hunt. Brazil's government has slated what it's described as foreign interference towards Brazil's judiciary.
Back home and in celebration of Women's Month, the Western Cape Mobility Department says it's important to celebrate the women who are the backbone of the freight industry. Western Cape Mobility Minister Isaac Seleku says this month they are celebrating both female freight truck drivers and the wives and partners of drivers. He says the freight industry is one of the essential components to the economy but is often underappreciated.
To the women who power our freight system, thank you. Whether you are behind the wheel, managing things at home, or offering emotional support from afar, your contributions matter deeply. You carry the weight of sacrifice and service, and today we honor your role in keeping the Western Cape moving.
Recapping the top story, the National Union of Mine Workers has criticised the Sheba Gold Mine in Barberton and Mpumalanga for allegedly failing to protect its members underground. For SFM News, I am Anne Musa.
Here, there, and everywhere. SAFM 105.1 FM in Johannesburg. If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
This July, journey beyond the horizon with Chasing the Sun. 5 mesmerizing episodes every Sunday at 7:30 on SABC2 from 13 July to 10 August. Feel the thrill of the adventure, the power of discovery, and stories that light up the skies. Missed an episode? No worries. Stream anytime, anywhere on SABC Plus. No subscription required. Chasing the Sun. Your Sunday nights just got brighter. Tune in to SABC2, Sundays at 7:30 or watch on SABC Plus on demand.
For the love of the game.
The National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
The councillor, Dambuza, of the EFF, was choked to the point of unconsciousness. I trust you're okay now, health-wise?
I'm fine, although some of the body pains now are starting to kick in, but I'm fine.
So, and I'm glad for that. Tell us what happened from your side.
We always, in the City of Cape Town Council, have a speaker that can run the council through the rules. She does not understand them, and she always needs to be given assistance to understand them.
Ashraf Garda on SAFM. Find the podcast at safm.co.za.
The Talking Point on SAFM. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
Welcome to the second hour of the Talking Point here on SFM 104 to 107 nationwide, where we're leading the conversations that move us. Coming up in this hour in our Citizens Corner, we're going to try and understand this morning and have a breakdown of the Mineral Resources Development Bill. It's commonly known as the Mining Bill. It is currently open for public comment in an effort to transform the sector. As much as we're discussing the bill, we're also going to use the opportunity to speak to communities that have been affected by disasters that occur in mining towns. One recent example is the Jagersfontein Dam disaster. This year in September marks 3 years since the tailings dam at the Jagersfontein diamond mine collapsed and claimed lives and damaged houses. So what is it that citizens living in these areas should know, and how can they get involved and hold mining companies accountable for disasters? For the purposes of navigating the conversation, we'll have Hassan Logat, who's a social justice activist who's worked in the union space and recently as a mining activist in the Benchmark Foundation. He'll break down for us the mining bill, but also from the community of Jagersfontein, we have Thabo Ishmael Chaledi. He's Jagersfontein Lerumo Justice Forum. He is a part of it. He was involved particularly in life-saving efforts, when the disaster happened. And then Judith Tomo is organizing secretary of the Jagersfontein Lerumo Justice Forum. We'll have that conversation with them in a short while. But first, your voice notes.
Hi, KG. I'm Tulane Kunene from Newcastle. KG, yesterday I was looking this hardcore committee. CIC do a good job to decline. Why I'm saying that? Because the BA and the ANC was already appointed which one will be a chair of that hardcore committee. They just mislead us if they said they would support Julius. Never support Julius, because they know if they support Julius, the truth will come. So I'm worried about that hardcore committee is just a waste of money. That's why here Judas, if they said we must go to the cheapest place, not the expensive place, because they know the ANC and the DA, they want to misuse the money for the taxpayers for none. Thank you.
Good morning, KG. It's Veli Mzoli. I'm from Richards Bay. I'm at track. KG, into these all political parties, neither one of the leaders gets selected by the people. They get selected by themselves. I, for one, I was a secretary for the VD in my place. I selected myself, and then I mobilized people to vote for me. So nobody gets selected by the people. We select ourselves, all the parties. That's why I've been asking this question about the leadership of PA, Julius Malema. It's the same. Even Ramaphosa selected himself to being a president, and then he mobilized people. Then those people voted for him. That's how it works all over the world. I thank you.
Morning, Kathy, and the South African listeners. Kathy, I don't understand the South African people. The people there, they need Mkhwanazi in all these provinces. So Mkhwanazi have to divide his body into many pieces to fight crimes in 9 provinces. It doesn't make sense. The people, they must stand up as we did in the 1980s. Must stand up and fight evil in our country. Mkhwanazi showed us South Africa needs more Mkhwanazis here to fight crime. Doesn't make sense. The people they must stand up. For example, here in Cape Town, the things that Dudula is doing in Joburg is not happening here. The extortion fees is not happening here. The people are just speculating anything, lousy things. And in the weekends, alcohol and chisanyam and dance, all those nonsense. No, man. It's me like in Kukuletu.
Hello, this is KG Anonymous here. I think this country, the mentality is moving away from democratic to militarization. That's what is happening, my sister. Look at Dudula, the EFF, all those political parties, or all those self-made political parties, they are militarized. And I'm telling you, it's going to move to that. This country is going to move to militarization. And just imagine if those parties come into power, what is going to happen? And they claim that they are democratic, yet they are militarizing themselves. Look at Dudula, they walk around like soldiers. Even the leader there, I don't think so that she can hold a gun. But anyway, what can we do? We just watch from the terraces.
Good morning, Khomotso. Pardon my ignorance. How is it that the Premier is able to reshuffle HODs? Did he appoint them, or were they appointed by the MECs of the various departments? Or is he just confirming that the HODs are political appointments? So as Premier, as the political head of the province, he has a right to control them, to hire and fire them as he pleases. I just need clarity because I don't understand how he gets into reshuffling, as he calls it, HODs, when he didn't put them in those positions. Or am I maybe missing something? Or just confused or ignorant of the status quo? Debbie here. Thanks, bye.
This Women's Month, SAFM stands with the women shaping South Africa's future. Under the theme, building resilient economies for all. We honor the pioneers, the problem solvers, and the everyday heroes driving change. Stay tuned as SAFM brings you powerful stories and meaningful conversations that move us. SAFM, celebrating women, celebrating progress. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. Gender-based violence is destroying lives and tearing communities apart. It happens in homes, in schools, at workplaces, and too often in silence. But it doesn't have to continue. If you see it, speak out. If you are hurting, reach out. Because doing nothing is not an option. Listen to all 19 SABC radio stations from Wednesday, the 23rd of July for hard talk, discussions, advice, dramas, educational shows and interviews around GBV with experts, survivors, lawmakers and a whole country affected by gender-based violence. All on your favorite SABC radio station. Call 0800 428 428 to report abuse or get help. GBV, it ends with you. This message is brought to you by the SABC. You are listening to KG Mwekezi on SAFM.
So welcome back. It's now 18 minutes past 10. So for our Citizens Corner, it's Citizens Corner Wednesday. This morning we're trying to understand and have a breakdown of the Mineral Resources Development Bill. It's also known as the Mining Bill. It is currently open for public comment in an effort to transform the sector. As much as we're discussing the bill, we're also using the opportunity to speak to communities that have been affected by disasters that occur in mining areas. One big recent example is the Jagersfontein Dam disaster. This year marks 3 years in September when the tailings dam at the Jagersfontein diamond mine collapsed, claiming lives and damaging houses. So what is it that citizens living in these areas should know, and how can they get involved and hold mining companies accountable for disasters? Just let me recap your mind. The mining waste disaster unfolded in the early hours of 11 September 2022 when the tailings dam at the Jagersfontein diamond mine collapsed and ended up releasing a torrent of thick grey sludge into neighboring areas of Charlesville and Itumeleng, killing several people, leaving 2 people missing, injuring dozens, and inundating rivers and grazing land. And there's been untold damage to animal life and to the wider ecosystem of the area that affected, the damage affected close to 164 houses. So let's have the conversation. We invited Hassan Logat, who is a social justice activist, and he's worked in the union space and recently as a mining activist with the Benchmark Foundation. Also, Thabo Ishmael Chaledi. Thabo Ishmael Chaledi is from the Jagersfontein Lerumo Justice Forum, and Judith Tomo is organizing secretary of the Jagersfontein Lerumo Justice Forum. Good morning to everybody. Perhaps let's start with you, Thabo, and get a quick update, because the 11th of September is just around the corner. That commemorates 3 years since that mining waste disaster unfolded in the early hours of the morning of the 11th of September at the Jagersfontein area. Tell me what's happened for yourselves as a community since then.
Okay. I would like to greet everyone all the viewers who are listening to this station, and I would also like to thank the opportunity that I got to be on radio today. My name is Thabo Chaledi from Jagersfontein Lerumo Justice Forum. I'm standing as a chairperson. So as a community, we organized ourselves to obtain justice for the community and also to bring hope, trust, and development of our town. I'm an activist, also a survivor and a victim who was trying to save people's lives and my hand got injured on that day, and we also got 5 lives that we lost on because of that incident. The incident it was very, very, very cruel, and it has left us displaced. It has left us disadvantaged. So till today, we are still waiting justice to be served for the community of Jagersfontein. So I would like to send this message as a moral imperative that they act in favor of justice. Our demands are as follows. We demand justice by releasing the findings of the investigation that was undertaken by the Department of Water and Sanitation, and it is believed that the investigation is handed over to the NPA. And now we feel that 3 years is too long to see nothing not happening. So nothing is actually not happening. So we are looking forward for immediate mental health and social support services for affected families and individuals. People are living in extreme poverty and hunger. Remember, first it was COVID-19, now it is the disaster that has worsened the situation, and this must be proper addressed to the community. The suffering of our community stands as an indictment of a system that too often prioritizes profit over the people and expedience over ethics and justice. So our statement is the clarion call for a new era of mining accountability, justice, and respect for human dignity. So we say justice delayed is justice denied for the people of Jagersfontein. So we urge all signatories, government officials, mining executives, council members, also concerned citizens, to honor the memory of those who lost their lives, as their names will be published on an ongoing time. So I would like to thank you very much, but I hope that our message will reach those who are supposed to reach. Thank you very much, my mother.
Thanks. Hassan, let's get you in. It's quite shocking to hear that almost 3 years into the Jagersfontein disaster, absolutely really nothing has happened from both, the government and the mine. Let's talk about this mining bill. Break it down for us and, let us know whether there would be any difference as proposed in the current bill if a similar disaster or any other type disaster were to happen in the future for communities as proposed in the current mining bill. Good morning.
Morning. KG, I'm, for the last 2 years, I've been the convener of the Civil Society Tailings Working Group. So Thabo, Judith, and Manale, were some of the delegates from Jagersfontein. We had people from various parts, Limpopo, Mpumalanga, the works. So essentially, we were trying to create awareness around the dangers posed by tailings in our country, but internationally. From last year to now, there have been about 12 such disasters. Now tailings are permanent. They are. They used to say diamonds are forever. It's tailings are forever. These are man-made disasters waiting to happen. As I said to you, there were 12 that has taken place since last year, June, when we met. And these involve, for example, in Malaysia, a gold mine, in Indonesia, nickel mine, in Bolivia, tin mines, copper, gold, jade, gold. You can just go down, gold, copper, jade, gold. I'm just going down the list, bitumen, diamond. So it's interesting that I ended up by the diamonds, because that's what happened in Tanzania, the Petra diamonds that collapsed in November 2022. Can you believe it? November 2022. The mud, they say, wave up to 1.2 kilometers wide, traveled over 8 kilometers. So the similarities with Jagersfontein are so obvious. When we were there 3 weeks ago, we met and were doing research for the launch that we want to produce the human rights impacts of this. We found people like Rio Rita saying to us she was flown, Rio Rita Breitenbach, 12 kilometers, and she prayed all along, keeping her head out of the sludge, and she survived to tell the story. And these people have severe consequences. She was paid 60,000, but all, as she says, meevels, no one paid for that. There are a couple of uneven compensations, which is not transparent. But what Thabo has raised now is actually interesting, because while we foregrounded the disaster was to see whether the proposals in the mine bill actually address the concerns of communities. The bill introduces a clause 42A, which is a stricter management on how tailings should be stored. But the rights of communities to have a real say in there, all that still remains. Now, but this is fixing up a problem, KG, which is where, you remember when the disaster took place, the minister, Gwede Mantashe, said, this is not our problem. This is where the court case, the Atakwa judgment, basically stopped us from getting involved. So this is trying to fix that judgment, so to give the minerals department some say in fixing up tailings. But when the disaster took place, these guys were in violation, as they were warned before the disaster a year or so ago. They were in violation of the Water Act, the National Water Act. And what Thabo is asking for now is the hearings, the findings of the hearings by the Department of Water and Sanitation. Every month or so, I keep calling the spokespersons and others, and they give me the same story, that it's before the NPA and we can do nothing about it. This is sad because the community is living in poverty. They don't know the causes of it. They don't know the homes that have been built now are built on land that is safe and ready for them to live. You know, as Thabo says, and he will have the honor later to read out the names who've died. Everywhere you look at people who died, they say one person died and one went missing. The community's research has revealed that 5 people ultimately have died, and I think it's an honor that they would release it on this program. So we think what is offered, KG, is inadequate, but it's in a context, you know, when you talk about national dialogues. In 2018, the Human Rights Commission came up with a report, which was about the underlying causes affecting mine communities, and gave very detailed input. The government, we all gave evidence there. The government has ignored that. Now they're having a dialogue. Some of the findings of that are so powerful that the bill that is currently before us doesn't even consider it. That communities, instead of becoming stronger in this bill, have become weakened. There's no access to information, that their powers to say no and to be consulted has been diminished. The coordination that we demanded between water affairs, environmental affairs, and other departments is there, but it made the minerals department more stronger instead of affirming the other departments that look after people's lives and livelihoods, like water affairs and forestry. So it's a coordination that is downwards, not upwards. So really, we find this bill quite disappointing. And it's written in one of these languages, not an official language of our country. It's called legalese. Poor people cannot understand what crap these guys have written. They don't write in simple English, and they want you to give informed consent on it. You know, to give your say that yes, they can do critical minerals and rush forward, etc., etc. But really, it seems that the hands of communities have been tied so that poor people can just give away their lands and their minerals to the powerful corporations and countries that may want it.
Yeah. Hassan, you speak of severe consequences. I'm going to go to the news headlines now, but I want you, Judith, to start there and break down to me the severe consequences that the community of Jagersfontein went through as a result of the tailing that happened in 2022. Let's quickly go to the news headlines and then we'll continue our conversation in a short while. It's 10:30.
On the news headlines, a group of angry residents from Eersterust, east of Pretoria, are calling for justice following the discovery of a woman's body in a shallow grave. They are protesting outside the Pretoria Magistrates Court, where a 36-year-old man is expected to appear in connection with the murder this morning. The trial of 6 men accused of the murder of 18 people at Ngobozana village in Lusikisiki last year will resume at the Mthatha High Court sitting in Lusikisiki in the Eastern Cape this morning. And the 50% US tariffs on a raft of Brazilian goods have come into force, the steepest so far imposed on any economy by the Trump administration. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
The rand is currently trading at 17 rand 85 to the dollar, 23 rand 72 to the pound, and 20 rand 67 to the euro. Markets in Asia were mainly high at the closing bell. The JSE have extended gains in mid-morning trade. Markets in Europe are trading higher at this hour. Gold is trading at $3,369 and platinum at $1,324 per ounce. The price of Brent crude oil is at $68.19 a barrel.
Conversations that you connect with and react to. SAFM.
Welcome back. It's 10:32. If you just joined us, it's Citizens Corner Wednesday, and we're trying as best we can to understand the Mineral Resources Development Bill, also known as the Mining Bill. It's opened currently for public comment in an effort to transform the sector. And in discussing the bill, we're also using the opportunity to speak to communities that are affected by disasters that occur in mining areas. One such example is the Jagersfontein Dam disaster in September. On the 11th of September, to be specific, it will mark 3 years since the tailings dam at the Jagersfontein diamond mine collapsed, claiming lives and damaging houses. So what is it that citizens living in these areas should know, and how can they get involved and hold mining companies accountable whenever such disasters occur? And we're talking to Hassan Logat, Thabo Ishmael Chaledi, and Judith Tomo. Judith, you are the organizing secretary of the Jagersfontein Lerumo Justice Forum. One of the things that Mr. Logat referred to earlier on are the severe consequences that the community of Jagersfontein went through when this tailing happened in 2022. Break it down for us so that we understand the consequences, these severe consequences that you are still living with today that occurred on the 11th of September and stay with the community even up to now.
Good morning, KG, and all your viewers. Sorry for my voice, I'm under flu. The consequences are very severe. Remember, we're living in a very small town, and COVID was there. As they said, we were already struggling. But after the disaster, things took a turn. The consequences were very severe. People are no more the same in Jagersfontein. People lost a lot. People are still traumatized even today. People are still traumatized. After this disaster, Jagersfontein came to a standstill for almost a month regarding roads that were need to be cleaned, schools, and etc. Also the electricity. So a lot of people lost a lot. Those who are one of the things that are very severe. And life is no more the same, as I've said, as I've mentioned. So what we are trying is the Jagersfontein Lerumo Justice Forum. As an organizer on the ground there, we are trying to get things back on a normal term for people to regain confidence again, because a lot of people lost confidence. So what we are trying to do as the forum is to try and make sure that Jagersfontein becomes the town that we used to know when growing up. And we are also trying to we are all busy planning a commemoration to honor those who lost their lives. And that is basically it. We are trying to get everything on form, everything back on track, as people are no more the same.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Let's break down the things that are not the same. For example, let's start with the houses because, a lot of people, the number is, I've got the number here somewhere, 64, people, there was damage to over 164 houses. Let me start with that, Thabo. What's happened to these 164 houses?
Okay, good. Thanks for the opportunity again, Mara. To tell you the truth, nothing is happening. Only few people have been built houses, but the same houses, the new houses, are not in the good condition. I've got one house which is coming water under the foundation, and it's a new rebuilt house. Then we've got other houses that are not being touched at all. It seems as if it's people who are seeking legal action. Then we've got the other houses that people were not properly assisted, like this ones of renovation. Even their compensation is not worthy even to buy a double bed or a fridge. That money is not enough regarding what the people have lost. So we are not happy at all. Even the construction has been called back to come and try and resolve the mistakes that they have left behind. So nothing is actually happening. And the main issue is that the same houses are being built on the same place where the situation happened. So it still builds an ongoing trauma to my community, even to us as citizens, because we've got the issue of a shallow aquifer here between the two locations where the ground is always wet. Every day the ground is wet. You see water coming out. You don't know where the water comes from. So this place where these people have situated us here is not actually the right place where human beings can live.
Yeah.
So we urge the relevant authorities to take the people away, from this place and relocate them to a better place. Thank you very much.
When we talk of legal action, Thabo, is it collective legal action from all affected parties, or are people sort of as individuals taking legal action? And who are they taking legal action? Are they taking legal action against government? Are they taking legal action against a specific company?
Mother, till today, I can tell you that we don't even know who is responsible for the incident. So there is a situation where it was built between the community, where division was formed between the community. So there are people who are under the lawyers, the others have made decisions through their mind, but that decision is also not quite actually right, because the people feel that they were forced to sign those agreements. This one's under the law.
Forced by who? By government?
No, by the mine.
By the mine, okay.
Yeah, the mine told them that if you don't sign, then we don't gonna build you a house. And now just imagine someone without a shelter. That person is desperate.
And they will put their signature down, yes.
Yes, then the issue of lawyers, Mother, is a long story, because I was under Dr. Richard Spoor myself. But now suddenly we heard that Dr. Richard Spoor was called by someone who told him that he must cancel the charges with us because we decided to take the offer with the mine. And we don't know that story, Mother. Then the issue is that the mine is buying out the people who are supposed to help the community. The mine is buying them out in favor so that the people can favor them.
What is the name of the mine, Thabo?
This mine is JDP, Jagersfontein Development, and still, if you can put further investigations, you'll find in that same mine we've got three names in the mine. It's Jagersfontein Development, then the other one is Jagersfontein Development Project, then the other one is Jagersfontein investment.
Okay. Let me go to a quick commercial break. I want to find out, in your activism work, Hassan, what sort of rights do the people of Jagersfontein have? And where do you think both the mine and the government let them down 3 years into the disaster? We'll go to a commercial break and continue our conversation in a short while.
This July, journey beyond the horizon with Chasing the Sun. 5 mesmerizing episodes every Sunday at 7:30 on SABC2 from 13 July to 10 August. Feel the thrill of the adventure, the power of discovery, and stories that light up the skies. Missed an episode? No worries. Stream anytime, anywhere on SABC Plus. No subscription required. Chasing the Sun. Your Sunday nights just got brighter. Tune in to SABC2, Sundays at 7:30 or watch on SABC Plus on demand.
For the love of the game.
Spar brings you super savings. Get 100-gram Danone Nutri-Day Smooth Yogurt, 6-pack, buy any 2 for 32 Rand, plus 100 megs free data on Spar Mobile, or 4 kg Spar IQF Chicken, mixed portions for 159.99, plus 400 megs free data on Spar Mobile. Plus, you could win your share of 6 million Rand in instant cash. Prices valid until 24 August 2025, while stocks last. T's and C's apply.
You are listening to KG Mwekezi on SFM.
10:42. Join the conversation, by the way, if you yourself live in a mining town that has been affected by one disaster or other. We're talking in our Citizens Corner, trying to understand the Mineral Resources Development Bill of 2025. And we're also talking to citizens of Jagersfontein following the Jagersfontein Dam disaster. Please call on 086 000 2032 if you want to join the conversation. The SMS line 41391, and on WhatsApp we're on 061 410 4107. Maybe let's start with Nhlanhla in KZN. He's got a question regards the mining charter. Nhlanhla, morning.
Good morning, my sister KG. How are you?
I'm well, Nhlanhla. How are you?
I'm good. My sister KG, before this guy speaks about the new bill that they want to implement, we've got a mining charter. For example, a mining charter of 2009 that speculates clearly what the mining company is supposed to do and how are they supposed to improve the lives of the people who stay around the mine. For example, skill development, providing, ensuring that their environment is secured and taken care to, not just polluting their environment and then mine and leave the mines abandoned. What does Guatemala is doing about the recommendations of the mining charter that were made at that time? Because he has been a minister for too long. Does he know what he's supposed to do, or is just sitting there just to get a piece of a pie?
Yeah. Reese in Rivali, hi.
Thank you.
Hi, morning, Reese.
Yes, so I'm sorry, I know your topic of discussion is based on the disaster at Jagersfontein.
Yes.
And I sympathize with those people knowing what they're going through and how they're trying to get something out of the situation.
Mm-hmm.
However, where I reside, which is in Tripoli, we have mining operations that's been taking place for the past, say over 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And the challenges as a community we've been facing, and that has just been endless. With no sort of light at the end of a tunnel.
Mm-hmm.
The mining houses are very, very powerful organizations as such. They use their might in that to get what they want.
Yes.
And I'm going to give you some feedback. I used to be the chairperson of the Rabi Mining Forum.
Mm-hmm.
And this goes back to over 10 years when we started engaging two mining houses, which was CRG and that was Central Rand Gold.
Okay.
And there was another mining house as well.
Mm-hmm.
When these people came into, and from what I understand, sorry, that when you make application for mining licenses and that, you have to have a lot of things in place in that. And one of the things is that money must be set aside for the rehabilitation of the ground that you're using.
Yeah.
So Central Rand Gold did pit mining.
Sorry, wait, let me understand. When you say money must be given for the rehabilitation of the ground that is being used, who does the money get given to government or the community?
To the DMRE. So when they make application, that money must be, from my understanding, that money must be set aside so that when they leave, they have to rehabilitate the ground on which they were working.
Got it.
So those one of the mining, the surface mining, the pit is right adjacent to a primary school.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm saying adjacent to a primary school, we're not even talking about 10 meters away from a primary school. It is right next to the fence that bounds the primary school.
Mm.
The problem is this: it affects the community, it affects the children, that the dust particles, etc. Studies have been done to show the extent of what the surface mining has done to our community now. Lo and behold, they've left, they moved on from Reveille and they started mining further up, going towards Springs, and the rehabilitation never took place. We've been fighting this, and because as a community, we don't have the resources or the financial backing to take these people on in court and that. So we have somebody that sometimes help us pro bono in fighting these matters in court. We currently have a case going against Minister Mashatile regarding all these issues as such. But
why Deputy President Mashatile? Why him?
Sorry?
Why is your court a battle against the Deputy President specifically?
I think it's the intention was, and I stand under correction, was accountability regarding the sorting out and rehabilitation of the properties as such, and asking the minister to intervene as such.
Okay.
These things, unfortunately, like I said, because they're so powerful in that, the mining houses seems to fall on deaf ears when it comes to speaking to the DMRE. To any highly ranked officials, and that it just gets ignored. We are faced with a constant threat because of the open cast mining of Zamazamas.
Mm-hmm.
Weekly, there's like gun battles taking place in our community between Zamazamas.
Mm-hmm.
Our people live in fear because bullets fly through the houses, etc.
Yeah.
There's an informal settlement where most of these Zamazamas are housed in that, and the request has always been to have it removed because it's an illegal area,
mm-hmm.
and nothing gets done. City of Johannesburg don't do anything about it. Promises are made, but it never gets delivered in that.
Mm-hmm.
So we just don't know which way to turn, where to go from here and what to do. Because we've engaged with Benchmark, and we've been working with Benchmark for over 10 years. And Benchmark's done their utmost to help us wherever they can, with resources, with obtaining, doing tests and that on the soil, doing tests of the air pollution, etc., etc.
Mm-hmm.
But they can also do just so much, because they've got so many other entities that they have to, communities that they're trying to assist in that. We feel that we're at our peril in that, because not only that, people can't sell their houses because of what is happening.
But is
your value of your property?
Before I go to break, because the Mineral Resources Development Bill is open for public comment. Is your organization going to try, whether through writing or another way of making comment to make those dynamics that you just described to me known for consideration on this bill? Because I think that it's a great idea to write to them, to write to the degree of marginalization that you're experiencing as a community, to write to the fact that you had a mining company company come and mine and basically left the whole community derelict, the degree to which you have been affected has to be known as this bill is being discussed. So I think that the organization that you say you represented for 10 years, whether through, the organization Benchmark or any other, write and make those issues known because they should be known.
Yeah, I hear you. And I'm hoping that the current chairman of the Riverlea Mining Forum is listening into this, because he asked me to also listen in. So I'm hoping that he's listening in and hear what she's saying, and I'll also discuss it with him, that maybe that's the way we need to go to try and get this thing resolved. Communities, it's worldwide like that. I attended, when I was the chairperson of the mining forum, I attended a mining in Durban, Cape Town, that affects communities throughout the world. And when you listen to the plight of those people, how they get affected by mining taking place, etc., it just seems to be the norm throughout the world.
Yeah.
That advantage gets taken in that.
Yeah.
We don't want any financial backing for this. All we want is the mining to stop, the place to be rehabilitated, and things to get back as normal.
Yeah.
We faced with this illegal mining issues, and there's another license to mine furthermore in our community. And people are opposing it, but they go ahead and make sure they got all the necessary information to submit for their licenses and such. And
Reese, unfortunately, I've run out of time. Let me go to a quick commercial break, but I think you've put your point across properly. It's 10:52.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195, and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
EFC is live this Thursday in the heart of Africa. Battle lines are drawn. Africa's best face Europe's elite. Vili, the White Lion van Rooyen, is now back to defend his title against Anatoly Gaffin. And Ntando, the Zulu warrior zombie, receives the challenge of the fiercer Muhammad Salohidinov. EFC 126 is live this Thursday from the World Sports Betting Arena. Watch it on SABC Sport Channel on DTT Channel 4 from 7 p.m. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
Conversations that you connect with and react to. SAFM.
We've been having a conversation around the Mineral Resources Development Bill of 2025 and, what happens when mining disasters happen in towns. And specifically, we've been honing in on the Jagersfontein Dam disaster. On the 11th of September this year will mark 3 years since the tailings dam at Jagersfontein Diamond Mine collapsed. It claimed 5 lives and damaged 164 houses. And when we talk to the people from the community, very little has changed for them. But, one of the things that we just heard, Hassan, is that there's many such communities that are affected in one way or the other, with mines that come and do work in their communities. And when it comes to either shutting down the operation when it's time for them to leave or compensate communities for the work that was done on that land, absolutely nothing happens. I'm sure you heard. I want to get your take on what that the calls that have come through up to now have been saying.
Sure. KG, let me just say, we, the Tailings Working Group, met. We invited many communities, some from Meadowlands, Riverlea, all of them. Riverlea didn't come this time. But they know this process was to talk about how do we coordinate responses that must be in by the 13th of August, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's the first bout. So these comrades are aware there is a process there. And we also had a workshop a few months ago in Meadowlands about remining. These people, Godfrey and others, Togonim, lived next to a big tailings dam for 30, 40 years. Now a company comes and takes it away, says, look, we've taken away this dump that was causing you ill health. Now you can breathe better. But the law says, as you open a mine, you must have, as the caller rightfully points out, a plan of how the mine will be closed and the land rehabilitated to the extent that it existed before, if not better. And then even the people, I say, must be restituted. The people are sick, having asthma, cancers, etc., must all be dealt with, which we don't do. So these stories, and the Rivoli community has been quite well organized for a long time. Probably they don't need more support from us because they've been a long time there. But the other communities we are working with actually know that the remining, which Jagersfontein also represents, is a problem because communities are losing out twice. Initially, suffering the dump. Secondly, when it's remined, there's no employment for communities. So let me just point out to what the Act says, the draft bill. It is very, very weak on the bill does not have a clear criteria about how communities will benefit. In fact, it has weakened the mining charter. But the companies actually took the mining department to court and basically stopped the mining charter before. Now what is happening with the ministry is trying to put some of these clauses inside the bill, but we don't think they adequately address the issues that the communities want. Also around social and labor plans, we don't think they do it well in the bill. There are a lot of this. In fact, I want to advise the ministry that they must look at the Human Rights Commission's report of 2018, which better represents the demands of communities. And the national dialogue that the president wants to have must actually look how they've not listened to their own people and how they've not listened to Chapter 9 organizations that are being under-resourced to do a big work. Instead of spending big money on another dialogue, put the money into these Chapter 9s, the Public Protector and others to do their work so that communities can have a real voice. So for me, the communities have to rebuild themselves, create a core group. We can't have one-man shows in communities. There must be 5, 7 people concentrating daily on their own lives. And the CETAs must come to the party and fund these people that are doing voluntary work to make our society better. That is the problem.
Yeah. So, I mean, the 13th of August is just around the corner. That's probably next week, if I'm counting correctly. If there's, communities that will, because I think there's value in what you're proposing that, they need to speak collectively, not as one voice. If they want to get in touch with yourselves as Benchmark, can you give us...
I'm with the Tailings Working Group.
Or the Tailings Working Group, my apologies.
We work with the Benchmarks, we work with Earthworks, we work with NUM and various. We're trying to build a very big coalition, including
Yes, I was trying to get to that big coalition, that if they want to get in touch, let's say with you, so that you speak with a collective voice by next week to make your submissions, how do they go about it?
KG, all these communities, for example, I can give a phone number as well, but let me just state, this is the first bite. Because once we make these initial ones, it will have to go to Parliament and there'll be draft and then another bite comes through. So what we're trying to get in now is merely to say that the way we've been consulted in Sikhowa, in legalese, has not spoken to the people and is fundamentally wrong. And we will challenge them on that. But we will also make recommendations around mine waste and tailings. We will talk about whether the impacts, the lived realities of people are affected in this bill. But we don't only rely on this bill. For example, we don't know that 900 animals, sheep and others, got killed there, right? The SPCA had to rescue 500 domestic animals, So clearly 1,000 hectares of land has been destroyed in Jagersfontein, according to Albertus van Skalwyk, the chairperson of the Agricultural Association. But so what I'm saying to you, I'm quite easy to find, and I know these comrades quite well. What I would really want, KG, for the honor of this program, for Thabo to at least read the names of the 5 people for the first time.
We lost Thabo, unfortunately. We lost his line. I don't know if you've got the names of the 5 people. Do you want to read them out if you've got them? Because we lost Thabo.
Judith, have you got it nearby there? Because I was on another his phone died.
Please
Okay,
read the
sorry.
names of the deceased, Judith, before we round off our program.
Okay, the first person that lost his life was Ntate Aaron Ralehana Musweu, and Memantele Mohadi is the one that is still missing. And then we have Isoko Petrus Kuti. And then we've got Ntate Korkov. And then we've got Atleho Soli Olifant. He is a schoolboy who was 13 years old, was run by the mine truck. He was run over by the mine truck. He also lost his life. Those are the 5 people.
Yeah. Thank you, Judith.
The only reason why I asked for it to be read
Yeah.
is that everywhere you look on the internet, there's only one person missing and one died. And we will be putting out a media release jointly with the Jagersfontein Lerumo Justice Forum in preparation for the commemorative efforts around the 11th. But Jagersfontein is included in this bill because
Yeah.
it's trying to fix that gap in how the law was interpreted in an Atakwa judgment of 2007.
No, I'm
So that's why
grateful. I'm
Jagersfontein
grateful
is relevant.
that the names were read because when we say 5 people, it's so impersonal. But the moment you mention them by name, they were human beings. They lived and they lost their lives and shouldn't have lost their lives. Thank you, Hassan Lohad. Thabo Ishmael Chaladi, we lost you, but thank you to you as well, and thank you, Judith Tomo. We appreciate your work. It's 11:01.
Thank you, KG. On the top stories, Eersterust residents protest outside Pretoria Magistrates Court, and 50% US tariffs comes into effect into force on Brazil goods. For SAFM News, I am Ondelambana, and a very good morning. A group of angry residents from Eersterust, east of Pretoria, are calling for justice following the discovery of a woman's body in a shallow grave. They are protesting outside the Pretoria Magistrates Court, where a 36-year-old man is expected to appear in connection with the murder this morning. The suspect was arrested in Polokwane on Monday. The woman's partially burnt body was discovered on July 31st, weeks after she was reported missing. This comes amid intense investigations into the murder of 4 women in the area recently. One of the protesters is Moshe Mate from Youth for Survival NPO.
It is a concern that in our country, still women are being murdered. There's darkness in the country. It is Women's Month and we are never celebrated. We are carrying these candles today because our prayer is that let there be light in South Africa. Let this gender-based violence stop once and for all. Let justice prevail. Let the perpetrators be booked and taken in to prison and never let out, because women are in fear. Women are scared. Even the ones in our shelters, they are not sure how long they are going to be safe. They want to return to their families, but they are scared for their life. What kind of a country and a life is this?
Some men from Eersterust are also part of the protest. They say everyone is living in fear in the community. They are also calling for intervention in addressing rampant crime.
We in Eersterust are very, very, very scared at the moment. The police are not assuring any visibility. They're not transparent with the investigation to this point. We don't know if all the other 3 murders is related to the same suspect or whatever. They're not coming forward with this kind of information. So what we require from our community or the responsible people, increased visibility. We want transparency, and we need our leaders to engage with the community and ensure that, to tell us that we are safe and we need not to worry about anything else.
The trial of 6 men accused of the murder of 18 people at Ngobozana village in Lusikisiki last year will resume at the Mthatha High Court sitting in Lusikisiki in the Eastern Cape this morning. The trial was adjourned on Monday as one of the legal representatives of the accused was not available. Last week, the court dealt with the killing of an ANC politician, Mncedisi Gijana, in Kwabaca in August last year. It is alleged that the firearms that were used to kill Gijana were positively linked to the murder of 18 people at Ngobozana. 3 witnesses have been called so far by the state. The National Union of Mine Workers has criticized the Sheba Gold Mine in Barberton, Mpumalanga, for allegedly failing to protect its members underground. This follows the arrest of more than 500 illegal miners at the mine since Friday last week. NUM spokesperson Lebuani Mamburu says they welcome the arrest as Mpumalanga mine workers were being harassed by illegal miners.
The concern is that they are working in the same environment where our members are working underground. Like I said, they forcefully take food from our members. They were not even supposed to be there in the first place. The company was supposed to provide security for them, because in terms of Section 2 of the Mine Health and Safety Act, the company must make sure that its operations are safe for the workers to work.
The 50% U.S. tariffs on a raft of Brazil goods have come into force, the steepest so far imposed on any economy by the Trump administration. Key products, including coffee, will be affected. The BBC's Leon Wells has the details.
Brazil is the world's largest coffee exporter and provides about a third of the US's supplies. The decision will hit both Brazilian businesses and American coffee drinkers financially. What's unique is these tariffs are almost entirely political. President Trump has attributed them to the trial of the right-wing former president of Brazil, Jair Bolsonaro, who's facing trial for attempting a coup after losing the last election, something he denies. Mr. Trump has called it a witch hunt. Brazil's government has slated what it's described as foreign interference towards Brazil's judiciary.
Iran has executed a man convicted of spying for Israel and passing on information about a nuclear scientist killed in Israel's June attacks on that country. The Mizan news agency is reporting that Ruz Bevadi had worked in one of Iran's important and sensitive organizations without going into further details. Executions of Iranians convicted of spying for Israel has significantly increased this year, with at least 8 death sentences carried out in recent months. Israel launched 12 days of airstrikes in June, targeting Iran's top generals and nuclear scientists. Iran retaliated with barrages of missiles and drones. Recapping the top story, a group of angry residents from Eersterast east of Pretoria are calling for justice following the discovery of a woman's body in a shallow grave. I am Undelambana for SAFM News Headlines at 11:30.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide.
With the ever-changing financial landscape, it can be difficult to make sense of all the moves at times. Join me, Jimmy Moyaha, on the SAFM Market Update with MoneyWeb, Mondays to Thursdays, 6 to 7 p.m, as we break down the key market trends, top financial stories, and smart investment insights, all in one place. It's everything you need to stay financially informed and ahead of the curve.
Gender-based violence is destroying lives and tearing communities apart. It happens in homes, in schools, at workplaces, and too often in silence. But it doesn't have to continue. If you see it, speak out. If you are hurting, reach out. Because doing nothing is not an option. Listen to all 19 SABC radio stations from Wednesday, the 23rd of July for hard talk, discussions, advice, dramas, educational shows, and interviews around GBV with experts, survivors, lawmakers, and a whole country affected by gender-based violence. All on your favorite SABC radio station. Call 0800 428 428 to report abuse or get help. GBV, it ends with you. This message is brought to you by the SABC.
The Talking Point on SAFM. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
So welcome to the third and final hour of the Talking Point here on SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide. So when was the last time you bought clothing or whatever from Shein and Temu? When you bought, did you ask yourself about what, that purchase means for the local companies that create the same things that you bought from Shein or Temu? The Localization Support Fund, with the support of the Retail Clothing, Textile, Footwear and Leather Master Plan, has revealed that more than 34,000 local jobs could be displaced due to e-commerce platforms. They say that if Temu and Shein continue to grow their market share in South Africa, then our local industry will be severely affected, resulting in job losses. So we're going to have a conversation and have an explanation about what the Localization Support Fund is with Ishad Kathrada, the CEO of the Localization Support Fund. But that's in a short while. First, your voice notes.
Good morning, KG. Look, I'm glad that the name of the deceased were read, so that we can know the real truth behind the issue of Jagersfontein mine. This issue continue to show how bad things are in our country, how government continue to treat people like animals. It is not right. The same applies to the issue of Lily Mines, and it continue as if nothing is happening or no one is watching. I think it is high time that the community stand up and fight against this exploitation. Thank you very much.
Sis KG, why Minister Motsoaledi come to the radio and account? Why can't Abu Kwene Mantashe also do the same and come to the radio and account to the people for whatever the responsibility that they must take? Or so, man, this is really selective and unfair. They are untouchable, Abu Kwene Mantashe. No, man, it cannot work like that. Thank you.
You know, it's very opportunistic for the union to now come out and say the Shiva mine is not providing security for their employees. I stayed in Matsulu, which is not very far from Barberton. And in Matsulu, there was a lot of people who are Zamazamas, mostly from Zimbabwe. And even the people who worked in those mines, they will tell you that sometimes they bump into people who are not working there. I'm submitting that the unions have always been aware that there are other people there, and they were not speaking out. And now that there has been arrest, now they are coming out and saying the mine is not providing security. What have they been doing about it? Or what have they been saying about it?
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
The Desert Foxes want to set the tone and triumph against Mzansi. However, Bafana Bafana are focusing on 3 essential points. This is the Total Energies African Nations Championship 2024. Do not miss out on Algeria versus South Africa on Friday, 8 August at 4 p.m. Live at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
So Taryn, you've just graduated cum laude, but nothing says you're a genius quite like selling your car to WeBuyCars.
Absolutely. My car was an 18th birthday present and it's time to move on to something a bit more mature.
So where did you hear about WeBuyCars?
All of my friends are using WeBuyCars. I would have had legit FOMO if I hadn't used them. And it was so quick. I did it on my laptop while sending around my CV.
Smart move, Taryn. Graduated and upgraded. WeBuyCars. Geared for success. Geared for you.
Conversations that you connect with and react to. SAFM.
So welcome to the final hour of the Talking Point here on SFM. As I said earlier, we're talking now the Localization Support Fund, warning against the impact of e-commerce on South African job. The Localization Support Fund, with the support of the Retail, Clothing, Textile, Footwear and Leather Master Plan, has revealed that more than 34,000 local jobs could be displaced due to e-commerce platforms. They say that if Temu and Shein continue to grow their market share in South Africa, then our local industry will be severely impacted by this. To explain what the Localization Fund is, we're joined by Irshad Kathrada, CEO of the Localization Support Fund. Irshad, good morning. Thank you so much for your time. Maybe let's start there. What do you do at the Localization Support Fund?
Good morning, KG, to you and all the listeners, and thanks so much for having us on the show. So the Localization Support Fund, we're a non-profit company. We're what's referred to as a public benefit organization. So everything we do in the public interest. And we were established as a public-private partnership between government and private sector stakeholders to help support localization. So what do we mean by localization? It's effectively trying to see where are the opportunities to build local manufacturing value chains. And we do this because manufacturing is an important engine of growth in the economy. We see it not only in South Africa, but outside as well. That if you can create one manufacturing job, the multipliers to the economy are quite significant. For every one manufacturing job, there are about 4 other jobs you create in the economy, up and down the value chain in ancillary industries. So it's quite an important engine. So that's the work that we do, and we do this through a range of different means. We try to commission research that can help us understand both the obstacles but the opportunities for local manufacturing. And we support a number of companies with technical assistance so that they can scale up and become more competitive and efficient.
Yeah. So then you did some sort of research with the Retail Clothing, Textile, Footwear and Leather Master Plan. And that research says that 34,000 local jobs could be displaced due to e-commerce platforms. Elaborate for me, please.
Absolutely. So, Katie, the reason we did this work was we wanted to understand what the growth of e-commerce means for jobs in South Africa. What's the economic impact? So, for every 200 billion rand that we spend, and we spend a considerable amount on clothing in South Africa every year, about 200 billion rand, about 10% of that is now being spent on e-commerce. And it's grown quite quickly over the last number of years. Now, we have a number of South African retail platforms, online platforms, the likes of your Bash, Superbalist, Takealot, etc. But we've also had the growth of what we call these offshore online platforms. And these are the likes of Temu and Shein. And we wanted to better understand what the implications are for the economy, because these platforms create far less jobs in South Africa than even the South African online platforms. If you think about it, those South African online platforms will have a much more extensive distribution and logistics network. They'll have head offices and head office jobs. They'll have local sourcing and manufacturing jobs that they're creating in the economy. And as I mentioned earlier, that will have multiplier effects. If we look at Shein and Temu, they have a much, much smaller logistics network with much more precarious jobs that are being created. And so we really wanted to try and understand, first of all, what is happening with e-commerce? Second of all, what is the growth of these players? And they've grown incredibly quickly. I mean, last year alone, South Africans spent more than 7 billion rand on clothing from Shein and Temu. They've now eclipsed the market share of Zara, H&M, Cotton On, all put together. And so that's growing incredibly quickly. Having only entered into the country, Shein entered into South Africa in 2020. Temu entered in 2024. And in just a very short period of time, they've amassed that kind of market share.
Yeah.
We also wanted to look at what other countries are doing and how they are addressing the problem, and what can we learn as South African regulators, but also industry, as to how to address it.
So, thank you for that explanation on the offshore part with the e-commerce companies like Temu and Shein. But somebody can easily also say, for example, a company like H&M, which you just referred to, Zara, for example, those are also not, South African companies themselves.
No, absolutely. And I think that's a fair argument. And so if I look at the case of H&M and Zara, first of all, they have a brick and mortar presence in South Africa. That means they've got, physical stores that you can walk into in malls and cities around South Africa. And those stores are creating retail jobs. Now, they're not all sourcing locally. We've been working very closely with H&M over the last number of years to try and see where the opportunities are for local sourcing, not just for their South African stores, but also for their global network. And, you know, there have been one or two purchases that they've made, but we're trying to work on something systematic. I think we've received a much stronger posture, certainly from the likes of H&M and Cotton On, who have now become a signatory to the master plan that you mentioned, around trying to find the opportunities for local sourcing. But even where they're not local sourcing, they're creating local jobs through their brick-and-mortar presence, through a much more extensive logistics network. So there is, in fact, a big difference between their presence in South Africa and the likes of Shein and Temu in this example.
Yeah. And then, I mean, when you forecast future scenarios, because somebody can easily say that we should have anticipated that, the e-commerce disruption would happen. It's happening at a global scale, particularly post-COVID. A lot of people love the convenience of buying stuff online, and they, and everybody in the world is chasing a bargain, irrespective of where they are. Because, the global economy in many ways is not performing as greatly as it should. So people think, if it's a bargain, I'll order it. I don't care, about every other thing. I care about my own bottom line. So, I mean, when you do forecasts for future scenarios, where do you see these offshore e-commerce, their disruption going? Are they going to get bigger? Because you say 7 billion was given to them last year alone. And that's a big number. Do you anticipate it getting bigger? And when you say these 34,000 local jobs are going to be displaced, how did you come to the figure of 34,000?
Sure. So look, the trends are suggesting that e-commerce is going to become a much bigger part of South African retail over the next number of years. So we looked forward to about 2030, so over the next 5 years. So as I mentioned, e-commerce has about a 10% market share at the moment. These players, Shein and Temu, have a considerable portion of that. We think e-commerce will probably grow to around about 17% over the next 5 years. And that's just based on an extrapolation of the current trends. South Africa really does lag other countries. We looked at where e-commerce is, say, for example, in the UK, Europe, the US, but also in comparative developing countries like Vietnam, Indonesia, Brazil.
Mm-hmm.
And South Africa across all of them is lagging. And so we think that there's quite a lot of catch-up that needs to happen with e-commerce. Now, the jobs that are going to be displaced, it really depends on what we do from a regulatory point of view in South Africa. So, the offering that Shein and Temu has had to consumers in South Africa, in part was based off the, exploiting a loophole in our trade framework. And so they were bringing in these so-called small parcels, which was really designed initially for ordinary South Africans that were receiving gifts from abroad, so that they wouldn't be subject to the same taxes. But of course, they exploited this loophole. And so a lot of these goods actually came into the country without having the customs duties that would ordinarily be applied to clothing, and without having to pay the VAT that most products are subject to in South Africa. Now, that loophole was closed in September of last year, and we're still getting some sense of the extent to which that sort of stemmed the tide. But the growth of these platforms now will depend on what we do next. So we didn't only look at South Africa, we looked at what other markets around the world are doing. And it's fascinating the extent to which they're going. So, for example, if I look at France and Turkey, what they've done is they've actually put bans in some cases or caps on the amount of spending that they can do on advertising. Because it's quite interesting. If you go online right now and you type in any item of clothing and you type a South African retailer, so you type Foschini, actually the ad that's going to come up is one from Temu or Shein. And the reason is because they've bought out all of this ad space on Google and Facebook. So in a sense, a South African consumer who might be thinking they want to buy from a South African retailer will be given an international offering, sometimes without them even realizing it. And so that's a space that, international regulators have wanted to kind of close out. There's another example which is quite fascinating, and that is of India. India had actually banned Shein and said you can only re-enter into our market if you commit to local sourcing, which I think is fascinating. So when we look at the potential job losses, we looked at a number of different scenarios. One where e-commerce is growing at a slow pace, one where it's growing at a faster pace, and then different scenarios where you look at the market share. And the market share of these players will obviously depend a little bit on what you can do from a regulatory point of view. And we found obviously in the most extreme of these cases, there are about 35,000 jobs that could be lost in the country, which is really significant when you think that we're fighting for every single job. So I appreciate, obviously, consumers are looking for, as you say, a bargain. But I think as consumers, we need to be aware of what the cost of our decision-making is and the implication of our decision-making. And that's not to shame consumers, but just to make us aware that for every rand we spend with a South African retailer, the economic impact is much greater than if we spend on these online platforms. And probably the other thing I want to mention is, look, there's not only a role for the consumer to adapt, but there's obviously a role for our regulators. There's learnings that we can get from international, but there's also an opportunity for us to look at what these platforms are doing right and doing well, and how South African e-commerce offerings can bring it in and learn from it. So, one thing that I found fascinating when we did the research is, Shein and Temu have created this much more agile network of manufacturers in their primary manufacturing bases that they work very closely with in terms of trying to find the right offerings, making sure that they're meeting consumer demand, following the trends, all the rest of it. And I think there's an opportunity for something like that in South Africa. And it's something we've been working with the retailers, with local manufacturers, under the auspices of the master plan that you mentioned, to try and build those levels of connection, which I think could be really, really helpful for our industry.
Yeah. So when you talk particularly with policymakers, assuming that you do get an opportunity to, what kind of strategic recommendations do you make, or even in the future, if you're planning to make those recommendations, what kind of strategic recommendations do you want to make for policymakers? Because I can hear you making recommendations for local businesses to try and mitigate the risks. But, I mean, it has to also be driven, I think, by law, by policymakers going forward. What kind of strategic recommendations do you want to make for policymakers particularly?
Sure. So there are probably three major ones that come out of the work that we've done. The first is customs enforcement is critical. And while we've closed the loophole, as I mentioned earlier, on paper, what we understand is that there's still some enforcement challenges. And that's not to throw any particular government agency under the bus, but it's to say that we need to obviously improve that as we go along. The other was a recommendation that came out around the role for consumer rights and ensuring that within the National Consumer Act, the various elements are taken care of. So, for example, there are regulations around what is fair advertising so that consumers know what it is that they're buying. There's regulations around the ability to return goods well, and that isn't apparently always being enforced appropriately with the likes of Temu and Shein. So what we said is that there needs to be an effective audit of this entire value chain to make sure that from a consumer rights perspective, consumers know what they're getting a fair price, they understand the terms of trade appropriately. And then the third area is around this advertising spend, which I think is something we need to be looking at, because as I say, they've bought out strategically, and look, this is, it's a gap that they found and they've exploited that gap, and in a sense that's fair business.
Yeah.
But we do need to look at whether or not it is appropriate for South African for consumers and retailers.
Yeah. And I think as we round off our conversation, I'd like to give you the opportunity to talk directly to the consumer, about why it is that, they should buy local as opposed to offshore e-commerce. They can still buy e-commerce, but local e-commerce. Tell them directly why.
Thanks, KG. I mean, if having this opportunity to address the consumer, I think it's important for us all to realize that our choices do matter. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to build a resilient South African economy, one that can produce and sustain and create jobs. And it's really, really important. So our spending does matter. We understand, obviously, like you say, that consumers want to have a good deal. But just look at the options available. If something's available on Temu, but it's also available on South African platforms, make that choice. Go for the South African platform if you can. The opportunity that it creates for growth in our local economy is massive, and every little bit helps. As I say, South Africans spend 200 billion rand every year on clothing. if we just directed even just a fraction more of that towards the local economy, it's going to create thousands of jobs.
Yeah. If anybody wants to read the study, is it available on your website as the Localization Support Fund?
Absolutely. The study is available there. It's at www.lsf, so Localization Support Fund, -SA for South Africa.co.za. And all of our reports, our news, and the events that we have as well, because we have a lot of roundtable and webinar events, all of it's available there. We'd love South Africans to engage with the content.
Thank you for engaging with us, Ishrat. Thank you. We appreciate your time.
Thanks so much, KG.
Thank you. Ishrat Kathrada is the CEO of the Localization Support Fund. Don't forget, when we come back from break, it's time for the G20 series with Lerato Tsebe. It's 11:30 on Delambana, standing by with the news headlines.
On the news headlines, the bail application of Katiso KT Mulife, who was arrested in connection with the murder of Oba John Sefuka, more popularly known as DJ Somebody, and two of his bodyguards, has begun at the Alexandra Magistrates Court north of Johannesburg. A group of angry residents from Eersterust east of Pretoria are calling for justice following the discovery of a woman's body in a shallow grave. And the U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff has arrived in Moscow on his fifth visit this year. It comes 2 days before U.S. President Donald Trump's latest deadline for Russia to declare ceasefire in Ukraine. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
After a 2-0 loss against Morocco in the Chan opener, the Angolans are digging deep for their first victory. However, the hosts, Harambee Stars, are chasing their second consecutive win in their own backyard. This is the Total Energies African Nations Championship 2024. Be part of the action. Angola versus Kenya. This Thursday, 7 August at 6 p.m. Live everywhere, for everyone, always on SABC+. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
This Women's Month, SAFM stands with the women shaping South Africa's future. Under the theme, Building Resilient Economies for All, we honor the pioneers, the problem solvers, and the everyday heroes driving change. Stay tuned as SAFM brings you powerful stories and meaningful conversations that move us. SAFM, celebrating women, celebrating progress. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
The Almoravids have a secret plan to steal the show from the hosts, but Taifa Stars are gunning for their second victory to delight their home fans. This is the Total Energies African Nations Championship 2024. Catch Mauritania versus Tanzania this Wednesday, 6 August at 7 p.m. Live everywhere, for everyone, always on SABC+. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Gender-based violence is destroying lives and tearing communities apart. It happens in homes, in schools, at workplaces, and too often in silence. But it doesn't have to continue. If you see it, speak out. If you are hurting, reach out. because doing nothing is not an option. Listen to all 19 SABC radio stations from Wednesday, the 23rd of July for hard talk, discussions, advice, dramas, educational shows, and interviews around GBV with experts, survivors, lawmakers, and a whole country affected by gender-based violence. All on your favorite SABC radio station. Call 0800 428 428 to report abuse or get help. GBV, it ends with you. This message is brought to you by the SABC.
You are listening to KG Mwekezi on SFM.
It's 11:35. Welcome back to the Talking Point. It's time for the G20 series with Lerato Tsebe. Lerato Tsebe, good morning. We're continuing our series on the G20 with you, looking at how South Africa uses this opportunity of being at the helm of the G20 for 2025. Lerato Tsebe, if you didn't know, is an independent African researcher. Lerato, good morning. It's fair to say that the majority of G20 member states have had tariffs imposed upon them from the Trump administration. What's next for them?
Good morning, KG, and good morning to your listeners. Yes, well, I think we are not the only G20 member state that's had tariffs imposed upon us. On average, when I was doing the calculations this morning, KG, there's about a 10% minimum tariff imposed on the majority of G20 member states. Now, this is not only specific to G20 member states from the Global South, or those that are part of the BRICS grouping. We're also including the UK, we're including Germany, we're definitely including Canada within that cohort, and everybody is sort of just not scrambling, I wouldn't say, but we're seeing very different measured responses. Now, KG, I'm just going to talk to you about what's going on the African continent. It seems as though the average African country has a tariff of 15% imposed upon them. Now, one economist, a professor from India, is arguing that actually this is not about imposing trade. It's about trade being weaponized as a tool for political gain and for the United States to refrain or to rather halt the global order from being reshaped. They are just expressing this through the threat, this looming threat of tariffs. And she's saying that essentially if she were a head of state right now, that she would cower down essentially and come to these terms and conditions that they are being demanded of. For African countries, the big carrot and stick tool that the United States is imposing upon them is how they are going to now reframe their critical minerals exports to the United States. Now, you've got a variance of responses coming out of different countries and member states of the G20 in terms of how they're wanting to reframe and reshape their relationships with the United States. So yesterday, for example, Canadian negotiators have come to the conclusion that, quote unquote, it's really not the end of the world if they don't reach a quick deal with the United States. They're feeling as though it's quality over speed and that a rushed agreement could leave them on a back footing permanently. Brazil, a very different tone coming out of Sao Paulo, out of Brasilia. Brasilia is saying that they're not going to rework their trade agreements to the United States and cower down to their demands, and that they will be treated with respect and they're going to treat everyone equally. South Africa, for us, Minister Park-Staal yesterday morning, or rather on Monday morning, speaking with Minister Ronald Lamola, saying that South Africa is going to establish an export support desk, which is going to provide updates on developments and tailored advisory services to exporters on alternative destinations and guidance on market entry processes. Kathy, excuse me, Sis KG, I think what we're also seeing is that, there's sort of initially there was this great global panic about how do you respond to this erratic behavior. But now we are seeing countries sort of really take a step back and breathe a little bit and think, actually, what is best for our economy?
Yeah.
And I think this is part of, the broader reordering and reshaping of the current global order that's that's emerging and sort of emanating from the global south, from countries like South Africa.
Yeah. Also interesting to me is the fact that G20 member states have reaffirmed their commitment to reducing the gender gap in workforce participation by 25% by 2030, the year 2030, focusing on both quantity and quality of women's employment. How do they plan on doing this?
Yes, as KG said, this was part of a two-day Labour and Employment Ministers meeting that we were hosting, and our Deputy Minister of Employment and Labour, Judith Chabalala, was saying that South Africa, like other countries that are a part of the G20 grouping, need to start working towards not only numerical parity, but also address the quality and conditions of women's employment specifically. This was called, it was an agreement initially signed in 2014 in Australia and Brisbane. It's called the Brisbane eThekwini Goal, and they're trying to deepen that commitment by ensuring that the gender gap is closing and that there's meaningful participation for women across the broader labour market. The Deputy Minister was really questioning, how do we move past numbers? How do we broaden women and promote leadership in high growth sectors like science, technology, engineering, and mathematics? And she's saying that we need to start investing more deeply into affordable care work and care infrastructure. We need to start looking at how we are going to address occupational segregation in informal work, which is a very valid point, as KG. If you look at, you go to a taxi rank and you get food, or you're looking at people selling small foodstuffs, those are gender-oriented work, types of informal work. So she's suggesting that we really start entrenching a lot of equal pay legislation and start promoting more pay transparency to, tackle the structural discrimination that we're seeing within the labor market.
Yeah. Speaking of all things in relation to trade, U.S. President Trump says that he will meet China's Xi if a trade deal is struck by the end of this year. Why is this significant to the broader G20 meeting?
So this has been, the battle of the titans in terms of this tariff trade war that the Trump administration has ignited, has been this battle between Washington and Beijing. Initially, if you recall, about a month or two ago, there were tit-for-tat tariffs that were being imposed from Washington and Beijing, and back and forth and back and forth. And inevitably, they had to, reach a cessation of hostilities. But now, says KG, they're feeling as though they're set to meet, and President Trump is planning on traveling to China, although that is also not being confirmed as of yet. He's saying that he is going to likely have a deal with Beijing by the end of the year. You must remember that China is facing an August 12th deadline to reach a durable tariff agreement with the United States. This is going to have massive, massive, massive impact on semiconductor chips, on U.S. imports of pharmaceutical. I think really the global supply chain is what we're really going to start seeing, reverberating here if we don't have some sort of deal or agreement between these two on the 12th of August. So again, even major economies, KG, like China, very much within the same basket of challenges that every other economy, large or small, is facing with the Trump administration. And I think that South Africa should use their G20 presidency to really sort of try create resolve and alternatives. Now, granted, we've only got about 4 months left of our presidency, but I think that there's more groundwork that we can do in between now and then, really trying to avert these kinds of crises. And also, how do we create alternative markets, as Minister Parkstyle has alluded to in his presser on Monday?
Yeah. Lastly, what's next on the agenda?
Next, says KG, we've got the Y20, the Youth 20 Summit, that's going to be taking place from the 18th of August.
Fantastic. Thank you for your time, Lerato, and talk again next week. Thank you. Lerato Tsebe is an independent African researcher. We round off the show. It's time for the book reading. The book is A Testament of Hope, the autobiography of Dr. Sam Mutsuenyane. It's narrated by Samson Kumalo. Don't forget at 12, update at noon with Sakina Kamwendo, the Talking Point team, Lebu Museu and Kanya Bonani. Later on, the Full Circle with Bridget Masinga. It's 11:44. Thank you for having me here.
SFM's award-winning drama department presents another episode of the book, A Testament of Hope, the autobiography of Dr. Sam Motswenyane. Please note that the views expressed in this book are not that of the station. Listeners' discretion is advised.
Whenever I meet black people with money and talk about the African Bank, I always endeavor to make the point that we owe its existence to many of those black business pioneers who are no longer alive. The highest tribute to be paid to those people who had the vision and conviction that the black people in South Africa could establish a bank of their own is to ensure that we eventually take over the bank and look after it. We need first to prepare a suitable strategy of how to do that at the level where the bank presently is. The bank is worth billions now and is no longer an insignificant player. Bigger banks in the country have bought shares in the African Bank. Recently, I've observed with dismay that an effort is being made to implement a scheme in the African Bank to enable blacks to purchase a small part of the bank, which forever relegates them to remain an insignificant entity in its own ownership. I'm not happy with that arrangement. What should be done is to encourage black people to acquire as many shares in the African Bank as possible on the stock exchange. In that way, they will not be limited to indefinitely remain minor shareholders in the bank, as the new scheme will ensure. Our main fear, which prevented us from listing the bank on the stock exchange after its registration in 1975, was that black people would lose control and ownership once everybody was free to purchase shares on the stock exchange. The bank eventually ran short of money because it was not able to source support from the stock exchange. If we could convince more black people to buy African Bank shares, the ownership could revert to us. I don't know how many people are looking at the bank the way I do. If we allow other people to purchase more shares in the bank, we are bound to remain minor shareholders and lose control of it forever. With the latest developments concerning the MIG Bank, which has also been taken over by Absa, black people will ultimately have no financial institutions of their own, as they would be swallowed up by the big financial institutions. The mining groups that are currently run by black people and other businesses that command billions of rand ought to begin to divert some of their investments to the African Bank so as to regain its ownership by the black community. That notwithstanding, black business can take pride in the knowledge that we did something good for the country because the bank now operates all over South Africa. Even in remote areas of South Africa, you will today find the African Bank in operation as a notable lending institution. Chapter 12. Directorships. The Hill Samuel Bank. The Hill Samuel Bank, a British merchant bank operating in South Africa, was probably the first bank to take the decision to appoint a black person to serve on its board as early as 1974. I was accordingly invited to join the Hill Samuel Bank as director in the year and held that position until 1978. During my 4-year tenure on the board of the bank, I mostly sat quietly in meetings, making limited contributions due to my lack of banking knowledge and experience. But the great benefit I derived from this was the opportunity that I was given to be exposed to something new, something that would become of tremendous value in future years. I was, in my capacity as director, privileged to attend a few of the annual general meetings of the bank in London, where I witnessed on several occasions the outburst of shareholder anger directed at Hill Samuel Bank's continued business presence in South Africa, a country that was internationally rejected and vilified due to its inhumane and oppressive racial policies. My practical training in the operational principles of running a bank as a member of the board of the Hill Samuel Bank did prove to be of immense value when I assumed the position of chairman of the African Bank from 1975 to 1995. Navcock Sentry Assurance Company. Towards the end of 1978, Navcock and the Permanent Life Assurance Company, owned and managed by Mr. Alvin Zudendijk, engaged in negotiations to establish a 51.49% partnership company. The Permanent Life Assurance Company was a small insurance company which was experiencing slow growth. The new company was ultimately formed under the name Navcock Permanent Life Assurance Company. The aim of the partnership was to grow this company by selling its policies to black people, particularly blue-collar workers employed in various industries across South Africa. Soon after the registration of the joint partnership company, Mr. Zodendijk found another buyer with substantial funds to purchase his portion of shares in the company. The Central Life Assurance Company, under the leadership of Mr. John Jones, became the new partner. The company's head office was situated in Stevens Point, a small, beautiful town in northwestern Michigan in the United States. When Sentry took over Zodendijk's shares, they also entered into an agreement with Navcock to manage the partnership company as they had the required expertise and experience. I served as director of the Navcock Sentry Company, and before their Johannesburg offices were opened, I attended board meetings in the United States. Attending board meetings at Stevens Point was always a special and unforgettable journey, especially the last leg of the journey from the sprawling O'Hara Airport in Chicago to Stevens Point. Mr. Jones always sent his private plane to collect me from the Chicago airport to fly me to Stevens Point. I was often the only passenger on the plane and would be attended by a properly trained air hostess. She would entertain and